Welcome, everyone. Say hello if you are joining live. I want to hear from you in the comments. I see we already have a bunch of you joining. Sylvia in Washington, D.C., Alejandra in Tampa. Great to have you here. So make sure you say hi. Let us know where you're watching from. I have a question to kick us off today. How often do you find yourself spending hours, if not days, deliberating over an email you want to send? Or maybe you've spent hours contemplating the pros and cons of a decision only to feel more confused than when you started. Do you often hesitate before making a choice, afraid that you haven't considered every single possible angle? Or perhaps you've spent a long time trying to figure out the best approach to a relatively straightforward task. Hands up if you have been there before. Let me know in the chat if any of this is sounding familiar. If so, you are in the right place today. If you are nodding along with those questions I just shared, then chances are you might be overanalyzing things at work. And that's exactly what we are here to talk about today. I am Melody Wilding, author of a book called Trust Yourself, Stop Overthinking, and Channel Your Emotions for Success at Work. I'm an executive coach to sensitive strivers, which is a term I have coined that refers to professionals who are highly sensitive. They think and feel everything more deeply, but also high achieving. They're very driven. My clients are leaders, professionals at some of the world's top companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. And while they look successful on the outside, they tend to struggle internally with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, taking things too personally. So, as I'm going along today, please share what is resonating with you. Any takeaways, anything you're finding interesting or really hits home, please do share that in the chat. And if you're just joining live, say hello. I want to be able to shout you out. Let's see here. Charlotte, good to have you. Jillian in Cambridge, hello from Santa Clara. Alma, great to have you. Prachi from India, wow, fantastic. Amber, good to have you here. Finland, Marcus, excellent. Jennifer in Toronto, excellent. So glad to have you here. And Amber was saying, I got called out on this by my husband last night. Well, yes, again, as we're going along, share what is resonating with you. I always love to hear what is standing out to you and to make this more of a conversation. So I am also the creator of a program called Resilient. There is a QR code here on the screen if you want to check out more about it. All you need to do is open your phone, go to the camera app, and hover it over that QR code until it pulls up a link for you to click. Or you can also head to melodywilding.com/resilient. Now, Resilient is the only program of its kind for sensitive strivers like you to gain the skills, strategies, support you need to get out of your own way at work. And we are in the middle of a round of Resilient right now. It has been incredible to see our members progress in terms of their own levels of confidence, assuredness, groundedness, and their own career growth. People are setting boundaries. They're speaking up like never before. And that is life-changing for them. So if you want more details to know when our January round opens, so actually the early bird enrollment for our January round opens in just about 3 weeks from now. So make sure you head to that QR code here on the screen. Yes. All right. See, this is resonating with a lot of you. Let's say Alma was just saying, just as you described, overthinking, sensitive, and overachieving. Excellent. She said, hard to control emotions. Yeah. Now, one huge thing sensitive strivers come into Resilient for that they want to get past is this tendency to overanalyze everything. If that is something you do, type +1 in the chat. If you tend to overanalyze everything. Overanalyzing is when we dive too deep into the minutia of a situation. We dissect it from every single angle, often to the point of indecision or paralysis. So it's when the act of thinking about something, reflecting on it, processing it, starts to interfere with our ability to act, make a decision, move forward. So I want you to think of it a little bit like getting stuck in a mental loop. You're constantly trying to seek answers and more clarity. But instead of that, you just create more questions for yourself. So I would love to know, how do you define overanalyzing for yourself? How does it show up for you? Just type a few words or phrases in the chat. I see a lot of you are resonating with this. Yeah. So tell me, how does overanalyzing show up for you? I want to talk about some of the ways I've seen it show up specifically in a work context, because I don't think this gets talked about enough. So, one is email agony. You have drafted an email, and instead of just hitting send, you reread it 20 times. You bring a colleague in to give an opinion or two on it. Decision dread. So, when you are faced with multiple options, instead of choosing one based on what you know so far, you delay deciding, hoping that the choice will make itself clear. Fretting about feedback. You receive input from someone, and instead of taking it constructively, you fixate, you read into every single word, you wonder about the deeper, possibly non-existent implications of what they said. Project paralysis. You have a task or a project, but instead of moving forward, you're stuck researching every possible avenue, thinking you'll find the best approach. Extending your decision making. So simple tasks like deciding on a meeting time take you way longer than they should. Constantly seeking validation. So before moving forward with any tasks or making a decision, you feel the need to consult with multiple colleagues, get consensus, even for things you are an expert in. Avoidance of commitment. You find it hard to finalize decisions. So you may say, I think, or maybe, we'll see, let's leave the door open, instead of making definitive statements. You replay scenarios. So after meetings, you may mentally revisit conversations, wondering if how you perceive them is actually correct or if there were hidden agendas. And fear of missing out. This isn't necessarily about the social type of FOMO, but more so the worry that there may be a better approach, a better method, another solution that you missed or you didn't consider yet. So, why is it crucial for us to tackle and recognize overanalyzing, especially when it comes to our work? Well, it's because overanalyzing doesn't just rob us of our time, it erodes our confidence. It makes us second guess our capabilities. It can hold you back from taking risks, trying new things, speaking your mind. And over time, this doesn't just affect your job performance, it impacts your mental and emotional well being. All right, I want to check in with you and see how you are describing, overanalyzing for yourself. So, Marcus said analysis paralysis. James, great to have you here from Connecticut. Alma was saying, I move forward and then I doubt myself. So, almost that backtracking that happens. Let's see. Marcus said, I reflect way too much on the past. Amber, giving my coworker the benefit of the doubt, even when I have evidence otherwise. Yes. Alma said, validation, asking other people what they think. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about understanding the psychology behind overanalyzing. It often stems from a fear of making mistakes, a need for control, or even past experiences where we faced harsh criticism. So now we're always on the lookout about how can I control things? How can I mitigate any sort of missteps? Our brain, in its bid to protect us, prompts us to dive deeper, to dissect, to be absolutely sure before we take action. But in doing so, this many times does us a disservice. Now, when you give up overanalyzing, things just get a lot simpler. You're not second guessing every move. You're not drowning in minutia. Instead, you hit that sweet spot of decisiveness, the one where you're able to assess, decide, and then keep moving forward, even if it doesn't totally work out as planned. Your efficiency goes up. The time you used to spend dissecting every email, every presentation, that's now yours to invest in bigger goals or just relax, maybe take a breather. And Here's another big benefit of this. Other people see and respect that clarity in you. Your colleagues, your boss, they start valuing your input even more. And it's not because you have all the answers or because you're always right, but because you're not getting tangled up in unnecessary details. You're able to have a new streamlined approach that's not just good for actually getting things done, but also for building your reputation as someone who is sharp, who is straight to the point, who strategically keeps things moving forward even when there's ambiguity. And we all know there's a lot of ambiguity right now. Now, you might wonder, isn't overanalyzing just another form of overthinking? And the answer is yes and no. Overthinking is the broader umbrella over which overanalyzing sits beneath that. So the way I teach about overthinking is there's 3 different types of it. The first is rumination. That's where we're ruminating about something that has already happened. We get in a mental loop about past events, negative or stressful ones. It's like a record that keeps replaying the same song and never moves forward. You get stuck in the regret, guilt, what ifs. You constantly replay past situations. And the key aspect of this is the orientation towards the past. It's not just thinking about the past, but it's getting stuck there. And then we have future tripping. So on the other side of the spectrum, that's the opposite of rumination. So instead of being trapped by the past, people who future trip are concerned about what lies ahead. So some degree of future planning, anticipation is good, is really helpful. But future tripping can escalate rather to the point where it holds you back. The uncertainty of what might happen, the potential for failure, the fear of the unknown can make it almost debilitating. And then there's overanalyzing. So we have rumination, future tripping, and overanalyzing. Someone help me out by typing that in the chat. So while rumination and future tripping are about time, one is looking back, the other is looking forward. Overanalyzing is about depth. So it involves diving incredibly deep, too deep, into a topic, thought, or situation to the point of excess. So again, you're dissecting something to micro pieces. You're losing sight of the big picture. Now, more often than not, you're getting bogged down in details that are not particularly relevant here. And that leads to being unable to miss choices, fear of missing out on a detail, or choosing incorrectly. So why is it essential to differentiate between these forms of overthinking? It's because it helps you be more strategic about finding the best solutions. I've done some other lives that focus more on rumination and future tripping. So today I want to focus on overanalyzing specifically, because overanalyzing is best tackled by setting clear limits on decision making and how often and how much you allow yourself to seek external perspective. So I want to share how you do that next. Now, in Resilient, we go much more in depth into strategies to feel more confident at work, get out of your own way, find more inner peace. So remember, the QR code to join the waitlist or even just learn more about the programs on the screen here. All you have to do is take out your phone, take a photo of that, or you can head to melodywilding.com/resilient. Spots in this program are highly limited. We already have almost a quarter of them already taken, and the enrollment doesn't actually even open for a couple of weeks. But today, I want to share with you 3 of my favorite techniques to curb overanalyzing so that you can be making better decisions faster. All right, so the first one is to focus on satisficing. Satisficing. This is a term that refers to finding the happy medium between satisfying and sufficing. So satisficers prioritize finding a good enough solution, one that meets certain key criteria. Now, satisficing is compared to another decision-making approach, which is maximizing. And maximizers examine every option. They keep searching for better alternatives, deals, outcomes to their own detriment. So, of those two decision making styles, maximizers are more prone to overanalyzing. They're less likely to feel happy with the results of their decisions, and they're more likely to compare themselves negatively to others. So, cutting through the noise in your mind and getting to the heart of a decision is what satisficing is all about. It's about identifying that just right zone where a decision is both satisfying and sufficient without spiraling into a black hole of all of the endless possibilities. So imagine just being able to reach conclusions faster and to do it more confidently. Instead of getting bogged down in the what ifs, you focus on this works. And more often than not, that streamlines everything you do. So, in order to leverage satisficing, you have to know what you are optimizing for. I ask my coaching clients this question all the time when they are trying to make a decision. What are you optimizing for? This is where key decision criteria come in. Your key decision criteria are principles, guidelines, requirements that help you prioritize the most important things in weighing a certain decision. So your decision criteria can be professional, they can be personal. So let's say you're overthinking whether or not to launch a new feature for a product or service at work. Your decision criteria could include things like cost, profitability, the amount of effort involved, the risk level, the number of clients or customers it will touch. Now, let's say you're trying to make a personal decision, like whether to move for a job. Your key decision criteria in that case might be things like how well the role fits your strengths, the convenience, the long term earning potential, whether you have the opportunity to acquire new skills. So, in doing so, in defining these key decision criteria, you're not settling for mediocrity. You're strategically choosing efficiency. It's a proactive stance that helps you nip overanalyzing in the bud, helps you make room for actionable, more purpose-driven decisions. So the next time you catch yourself falling down that rabbit hole of over-analysis, I want you to think about what are those key decision criteria for you in the context of this decision right now? How might recognizing and applying them change the way you approach your choices? All right. So that is our first strategy for overcoming, overanalyzing. Focus on satisficing. Number 2, create positive constraints. I was just talking to a client about this, and we were talking about how if you give yourself a week to work on a certain deliverable, do you notice that it ends up taking you the full week? And then at a different point, maybe you only have 2 or 3 days to do that task, and yet you finish that same task in just 3 days. It's weird, isn't it? And it's because overthinking expands to the time we allow it. This is exactly why there is so much power in creating constraints and accountability so that you don't delay or you don't agonize over your choices. There's a popular statistic, it comes from the Association of Talent Development. It finds that your likelihood of success increases 95% by making a commitment to do something and sharing it with somebody else. 95% more likely that you will follow through. Creating external limits disciplines your brain into taking action and taking less time to mull things over. So one way you can do this is time boxing how long you spend on a task. So many of my coaching clients like to use the Pomodoro technique, where you set a timer for 25 minutes, you work until the bell rings, and then you take a 5-minute break. And after 4 rounds of that, you get a 15-minute break. You can also limit the number of resources you consult. It's another way to short circuit that type of overanalyzing. So maybe you determine that you'll only speak to 3 subject matter experts, or you'll create a short list of credible websites that you're going to reference. Giving yourself a deadline helps a lot. Pick a date or a time by which you'll make a choice, put it in your calendar, set a reminder on your phone, or better yet, let the person on the receiving end of your decision, let them know when they can expect to hear from you so that you have publicly committed to following up with them and making a choice. Committing to a deadline like that publicly in a meeting via email is one of the best ways to ensure you follow through. You can also recruit the help of others. Maybe you schedule a chat with a coworker, your manager, a friend if you are stuck in thought. That way, it prompts you to organize and synthesize the information that's been bouncing around in your head in a clear and concise way. All right, so now we have talked about focusing on satisficing. Second, we talked about creating positive constraints. Third is to listen to your gut. And there are many names for your gut feeling, hunch, instinct, deeper knowing. A gut feeling is your ability to immediately understand something without conscious reasoning. So answers and solutions may come to you quickly, but you may not even be sure why or how that's happening. So we live in a time where everybody's talking about AI and data. Trusting your gut often gets a very bad rap. The term in the research is called intuition. That's what gut feelings are referred to in research. And it's typically dismissed as something that's woo-woo, it's mystical, unreliable. And I want to be clear. Intuition can be fallible. It can be you can fall victim to bias in your intuitive decision making. But studies find that pairing gut feelings with analytical thinking helps you make better, faster, more accurate decisions and gives you more confidence in your choices rather than relying on analytical thinking alone. And this is especially true when you're facing a situation where there is no single clear-cut correct option. So there have been surveys done of top executives that show that the majority of leaders leverage their feelings and their experiences when they're handling a crisis. Even the US Navy has invested millions of dollars into helping sailors and Marines refine that sort of sixth sense. And that's because intuition can be faster than intellect alone, specifically in high stakes situations. So even if you've been taught to devalue, dismiss your gut feelings, the good news is that this is like a muscle. This is something you can strengthen with intentional practice. And a great place to start is just by making minor decisions by listening to yourself. Maybe you just choose an outfit that calls to you without weighing too many variables. Maybe you raise your hand and speak up in a meeting without censoring yourself. Taking quick, decisive actions with small consequences at first gets you comfortable using your intuition. And by starting small, you mitigate feelings of overwhelm. You can gradually step your way up to higher pressure decisions. And this approach is effective because it builds what's called your distress tolerance, your ability to be with stressful and uncomfortable feelings and to emotionally regulate, not emotionally sabotage in the face of discomfort. Now, daily reflection is also a great way to hone that intuition. So dedicating just a few minutes to daily reflect on your decisions, to write down where you might have felt a strong gut feeling, what the outcome was if you followed it or ignored it. This can help you start recognizing patterns and trust those intuitive signals more. And it goes without saying, almost, that mindful moments really matter too. Your intuition can't thrive in busyness and chaos. So even just the smallest of mindfulness practices can make a huge difference. Whether it's meditation, a couple of deep breaths, just a quiet walk with no music or podcast to listen to, those activities allow your conscious mind to step back and allow that more intuitive side to come forward. And over time, you'll find that that ability to listen to yourself, to trust your instincts grows stronger. So there you have it. Those are 3 of my favorite strategies to stop overanalyzing everything. Go ahead, type in the chat what resonated with you the most. Alma was saying, can you explain sixth sense? So Alma, it might be, and forgive me if this is a American phrase, and for any of my international listeners, what this means is, typically we have five senses, right? Seeing, hearing, taste, smell, touch. And why intuition is called the sixth sense is because there's almost this feeling sense that is an unofficial sixth sense. So it's just another term to refer to gut feeling, intuition. It's just another way to call that. So I hope that is helpful and clarifies. So let me know what resonated with you the most. Our three strategies today were focus on satisficing, create constraints, and listen to your gut. Marcus said this webinar is really great. So glad to hear it. Amber said she's going to implement with time blocks. Excellent. Yeah, I would love to hear from you. What resonated with you the most? Glenn said, how would you combine data with intuition without becoming stuck with overanalyzing data you used to verify your intuition? Glenn, I think this is where the strategies layer on one another. So you collect your data, you also tap into your intuition, your past experiences, your preferences, what your gut is telling you about the situation, and then you apply your key decision criteria. So what am I trying to optimize for? Yeah, James said limiting resources is very helpful with endless quality of information on the web. I spend a lot of time researching first. I completely get that. I am a high input person. I could research for a very long time before making a decision. And Alma said, knowing there are people just like me. Absolutely. Alma, you are not alone. And I want to say to all of you here today, the sooner you take control of overanalyzing or overthinking more generally, the happier, more productive, more effective you will be. And if you want support with doing this, then I want to invite you to check out Resilient. That is my 3-month group coaching program for sensitive strivers like you. The QR code is here on the screen. Again, you can take your phone out, take a photo of it. It'll bring you to the page. Or you can head to melodywilding.com/resilient. And Resilient is really designed, I call it my university for sensitive strivers. It's all of my best tools, teaching, plus live weekly coaching, community to help you regain your confidence, master your emotions, and get out of your own way at work. So James said, discount, please. James, there is an early bird discount available. So if you get on the wait list now, you will be notified in just a few weeks when enrollment for the next round opens. I believe it opens December 5th. So you will be the first notified. As I said, we've had almost a quarter of the spots taken already. So if you're at all interested, you definitely want to get on the wait list. And I only run this program once or twice per year. All right, everyone. That is it for now. I hope this has been helpful today. I'm looking forward to reading all of your insights in the chat. Take care of yourselves, and we will talk very soon.